Hey there, badasses. Welcome to Bad-Azz Military Spouse Connection, the podcast that offers a platform for military spouses. Get ready to be entertained and inspired by unsung heroes who have unlocked their own greatness while supporting their active duty and military veteran spouses. Now, our hosts. From Blue Star Families, a Marine Corps vet spouse and caregiver, Laura Torres. Laura is a workforce development expert and certified badass military spouse. And U.S. Army officer, Lieutenant Colonel Ismael Ortizrivera, host of the Soldier for Life podcast and partner to a badass spouse. Join us as we learn what it means to be a true badass on Bad-Azz Military Spouse Connection.
Well, it's time. It's Thursday. It's Thursday. It's Thursday. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And we are
live.
Live.
Say it. Live.
Live. De costa costa.
¿Quién dijo? That's right. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for another exciting episode of the Bad-Azz Military Spouse Connection. Are you a badass? We want to hear from you. So please post it in the comments. Laura, as always, I'm joined here with my co-host, Ismael, today, all the way from opposite coast from myself. I'm actually in the Pacific coast. He is in the East Coast. So how about that? Today, we dive into a vibrant world of military spouses as entrepreneurs. They're shedding light in their incredible journey to success. We have two really great amigos, friends here today. So let me tell you what's going on here. Cheerful, inspirational conversations. And it's all about empowering military spouses. We're celebrating and acknowledging Veteran Military Spouse Business Week.
Yes, Laura. Yep, you're right. We have two remarkable individuals, because individuals sounds like informal. Two excellent persons that they're joining us today. Our first guest is my hobby, Chris D. Ortiz. He's a military spouse. He's the boss in the house. I'm a lieutenant colonel. He's a colonel, and who is not only accomplished author, but also is a talented writer and editor. And we can't wait to hear his uplifting story. What is the process for the military spouses to write and publish a book, and what is his book about?
Absolutely. And then, of course, our second amazing guest is Tiffany Order, she is the dynamic COO, the coup of Parade Deck and Military Engagement Manager. So an awesome wealth of knowledge. With her wealth of experience, of course, she's been supporting military spouses, entrepreneurs. She brings a cheerful perspective. Wait till you listen to her. That it's going to fill our episode with energy and positivity. Plus, she has amazing plans and such a vibe. So, Ismael, what are we doing next now?
Well, we just welcoming everybody. And what we're going to do is do welcome Tiffany and welcome Chris.
Welcome, team. And I love what you said when you were introducing Chris Ortiz, or Colonel Chris Ortiz, excuse me, that he rules the house. And don't male spouses rule the house, period? Can we say hello? Yes, military spouses rule the household.
The real MVPs, yes, exactly. Are the military spouses. Yeah, that is correct.
Very kind.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, before we bring, obviously, we want to make sure that we, dive into some incredible discussions. But I want to remind our audience, those who are watching, of course, to please post your comments, shared where you are watching, your resiliency. Keep your comments, your questions coming, your cheerful comments, of course, for our guests. We want to make sure that we acknowledge you towards the end. And we are so excited to share with you and introduce you to incredible individuals for your network.
Yes. At the same time, if you have any questions, please feel free to write the question. We're going to pop the question and we're going to try to answer the questions at the moment. Now, Before we continue, we're going to start with Chris, and then we continue with you, Tiffany. Let's watch this video.
The sky is falling! The sky is falling!
Never have the public school systems abandoned the Ten Commandments.
And it's a very
Satan, the dragon, has always stood opposed to the redemptive plan of God.
To the Antichrist be empowered by artificial intelligence? The answer is yes.
We're not trying to judge their sin.
The only sin
for which God, because that's what the Scripture says.
When our brainwashing become role models, you know you're at the end of the road. The madness that they can become a transsexual.
I don't believe we're living in the end times. I believe we're living at the end of the end times.
Always stood opposed to the redemptive plan of God.
Wow. Did you catch all that? So many messages coming out about the end times, especially right now. And notice how the LGBT community is often being blamed or considered one of the signs of the end times. If you want to know what's going on in Israel with Hamas, the Hezbollah, if you want to understand the role of the LGBT community in the end times, please join me on Sunday, October 29th at 6 o'clock. That's 6 Eastern Standard Time right here on Facebook for a live podcast.
Yes, and we are back. And now, with further ado, let's welcome our first guest, Chris Ortiz. Let's see. Oh, how you doing?
Hello, sir. How are you? Welcome. Oh, you got to unmute yourself.
There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah, hi. How's everybody doing?
We are doing great. Very honored to have you here with us, of course. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to enlighten us with your background. So now, can we just dive into the question? We want to know really about yourself and your journey as a military spouse, of course, as a writer, author, and then, of course, a publisher, all the great, incredible talent that you have combined through all your trajectory.
We have a question. There's a question that we always ask.
Oh, yeah.
You need to say what is the most funny experience that you have a military spouse. So you are...
Yes, you're right. I skipped a funny question.
Yeah, so you have to tell the audience, and for the audience, he's my husband, and we are back to back, so we have playing with the microphone, so there's no feedback. Go ahead, Chris.
And there we go. So yeah, funny story. Hey, thank you for having me on. It was a surprise when I was invited. Very honored. I know that Ismael is just really loves this group and enjoys the Bad-Azz Military Spouse group and everybody involved. So thank you for that. Yeah, funny thing, I would say to me, one of the funniest things is, you know, we are a bilingual house, and Ismael and I have had a few funny things happen around that. One is that I was telling him one time, there's a certain word, and I'll let you figure this out, but there was a time when we were traveling together a long distance, you know, and it's like, what do you do to entertain each other? You talk, right? And conversations, he asked me a little bit about my experience because I've lived in Asia for quite a lot of my life. And I told him about, I think we were talking about maybe favorite foods. And I told him all about Peking duck, which is really good. And if it's done in the traditional way, et cetera, et cetera. And I explained the whole process. The next day we're riding along and he said, Chris, have you eaten dog? And I said, maybe. If I did, I didn't know it was, but I guess it's possible. And he said, well, you were telling me all about dog. And I said, when? He said, yesterday you were telling me about the dog and how you wrap it in a pancake and then you have it in a soup and later. And I said, no, not dog, duck. So fast forward, we're in just first time to ever step foot in Michigan. We're at Lake Michigan, and Ismael says, look at the dogs. And my friends and I are all looking around for dogs, and he was saying, right there in the water, oh, the ducks. So we have this ongoing kind of funny thing between us about the duck and the dog. I'd say that's a funny story. Maybe the others of you who have bilingual households can understand that.
The things that happen only in a bilingual talent. Yes, bilingual brain, bilingual talent.
Okay, I'll go with the first question. Is yes, I'm okay. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey as a military spouse, writer, an author, and a publisher. Just in a couple nuggets.
Sure. I mean, when you say a couple nuggets, that's probably good for me to refine it, not starting with when I was born in the hospital, etc. Yeah, I'll just go to it's actually, I don't want to say the last part of my life. I will say sort of towards the end of my career life is from that time is when I became a military spouse, because my husband and I met actually 9 years ago this month. And so we, not too far after that, got married, but our first year and a half was actually long distance, and I never would have thought that would work, but it really did, because we communicated. And just a word to the wise, communication is key. No matter where you are, always try to stay in communication. But we got to know each other really well. At the time, I was working for the Department of Education in the state of New Mexico, and part of my job was writing, a lot of writing, and I was also the chief editor of my unit, which was school health. And I loved doing it. I love writing, and I've taught, I've been an educator for well over 40 years. So I love teaching. I love teaching about writing. I love teaching others to write. I love to write. So really a lot of that got going. And of course, after we got married and we finally moved in together, I've had different jobs, different positions, but there's always that running stream of passion for me, which one of them is writing, teaching as well, ministry, different areas, but I do enjoy writing, and I sometimes feel like I do a better job of communicating and writing than I do speaking. Just not that I don't also speak, but sometimes I think I can communicate better in writing, and I've written some pretty hefty sized books, but only recently wrote a book that I published for the public, you might say.
That's awesome. That's incredible journey. It takes really a good, great talent for you to enjoy writing, especially nowadays with so many tools and so many distractions sometimes, right? It really takes you away from some of that natural talent. So thank you for sharing your journey and your great, your great skills that you have developed along the way. I do want to know though, you recently wrote a book, and so this is really, I know that Ismael, or your spouse, was extremely proud of sharing with us all about your book. But can you tell us about what motivated you for you to take this particular journey to this book?
Yeah, good question. And
Matthew 22,
I will say to military spouses, there are a lot of you who are good writers, and hopefully I get a chance to talk a little bit about how you might explore that as well. But for me, good question. My husband has been my greatest supporter, and he's been the marketer. He really is talented with this. I wrote a book that is based on scripture, but it is very different because obviously we're a same-sex household, meaning that we are two men married. So that already presents an interesting kind of background for both of us. And without going into great detail about that, one of the things that happened, it was actually a dream that I had that was quite disturbing. It was the weirdest dream I can ever remember having, where I woke up and literally looked at the television to see if those things that I saw in the dream happened. It took hours for me to really differentiate between the dream and reality. But from that point, I really began to dig more deeply into things about the end times. Why do we hear so much about it? why is there a fascination, even amongst the general public, about end times or catastrophes that might end the world and so forth? And I began to look too at topics that you often would hear things like people say, you know, this person is definitely the Antichrist. And I'd say, really? How do they come to that conclusion? So I just began to explore and research and dig deeply into scripture and so forth. But after a while, I began to realize too that a lot of the time, sadly for us, those of us who are LGBT, who are sexual minorities, a lot of times we are kind of thrown under the proverbial bus. We tend to be the culprits, the people that they blame for a lot of the things that go wrong. And really, it's not scriptural. It's really based on hearsay, what people have said and heard. Because if somebody took the time like we do, because this is life and death for us, it really is life and death. To be told you're condemned and going to hell because of who you are, for us, we've taken the time to dig deeply into scripture. So I've written this book from the perspective of a gay man. A lot of what I've said is what other Bible scholars might be saying as well. However, it's written from the perspective to say, you know what? God wants my community, the LGBT people around the world, sometimes I call the eunuch nation, throughout the world, to hear this message as well and understand he's not differentiating. He wants us to be part of his kingdom and to join him in this day. The parable that I'm referring to in Matthew 22 is where Jesus talks about sending out workers beyond the kind of chosen people, beyond the ones that seem like they're the religious kind that would accept an invitation to God's kingdom for his wedding feast, all the way to the outskirts where the least likely people are. And that's how I've written it from their perspective to say, look, we're one of the last nations to be reached. And God has a plan for us too. It's not, that message is not going to come from most of Christendom, but it is there. And I believe that it was intentional for God to give it to me at this particular time.
Awesome.
Yes, I want to add something that he mentioned, the eunuch nation. And there's always people, there's a kind of a confusion when the scripture mentioned the King Esther was being taken care of from the eunuchs, and it's people who've been castrated. But the reality is, not every person who's being castrated is gay, is homosexual, doesn't like the same sex. Because if I'm heterosexual and I get castrated, I'm gonna be saying heterosexual. There's not a switch, it's not a switch. But the people who, the kings, they trust the queens and prepare kind of the errand, were people that didn't have interest in women's, because otherwise you have the goat watching the lettuce. At the end, the goat is going to destroy the farming. But that's the difference, and that's maybe a point of contention about people, because they have different definitions of that. Now, can you, something I would like you to discuss is the concept of self-publication. Share with the audience the concept. What are the steps?
Sure. Ismael, in Matthew 19, the verse that stood out to me years ago was when Jesus talked about the eunuchs. And if you read it, you'll see what I'm talking about. He talks about 3 categories. And one of those are people who really study history, not from a prejudice that's based on commonality right now against the LGBT people. You'll see that the eunuch people also included those who were not attracted or not going to be married and not going to procreate. So there are 3 categories, and Jesus discussed one of them. We're the people born eunuchs. Of course, for females and others, it could even be, we could go into other areas and talk about that. But because of time, I'll talk a little bit about publishing. Yes, we live at a time when it's kind of a pro-con. It used to be that publishing, you had to present and just send manuscripts to all these different publishing companies that were well known. And God knows if you really got anyone who paid attention to you, or they'd send it back and forth and say, no, redo it. We're at a time where we can self-publish by using companies that are really good at this. And I used Friesen Press out of Canada. They're one of numerous companies. The thing about them is that they worked really well with me, and I had a friend who had used them to self-publish. And it enables us to write a book and have support in the whole process, including the before, during, and after, with a little bit of editing and other things to go with it, that we're able to get the book out to public. And I felt like I needed to get this out there. So my encouragement to spouses, because a lot of spouses, I've worked with very talented spouses in the fields of education and other areas. And there are those of us who know how to write. It can be a how-to book. It can be a devotional book or an inspirational book. It can be a what's life like as a military spouse, or being a mom or a dad, all of these different things. What is it? How do you hold it together when you move from place to place? There are so many things that could be written. And so self-publishing can be one of the ways to focus on how to get something you're writing published. In my case, I also was able to hire an artist for the front cover through that same publishing company, and it turned out to be really good because they listened to me and responded to the way I wanted things done. So again, I encourage people that have any interest at all in getting that done, or team together with somebody and write a book, co-write a book.
Awesome. We're going to get all those details for that self-publishing maybe later on from you, if that's okay, so that we can share it with our networks. That would be fantastic to be able to encourage, because we all have a story, right? We all have our own stories, our personal journeys, and that would be so incredibly to empower other badass military spouses to get their journey out. And that changes somebody else's perspective as well and journey. Now, can you share with us any upcoming projects or initiatives that you're currently working on or planning for the future? Any additional secret sauces that you have going on in your career?
Well, there's a lot, actually.
Well, tell us. We want to know. We want to know everything. We want to follow you and stay connected.
I mean, right now it's really about getting this. The only thing I'm inspired at the moment to do is really get this book out there. And it's not about promoting myself, because honestly, I don't even care if people don't remember who was the author. I don't remember his name. I don't care. What I want is for people to read this and be inspired. And yes, my target audience is LGBT community, but my brother and sister are reading it. I have other people that are reading it who are identify as heterosexual, those who are Christian, those who are not. I mean, it's different people. I want to inspire people that God's message is about love, and that God wants everyone to be part of the kingdom of God. So that's important for me to say. It's right now a lot of work to get the marketing done, and I plan on hopefully having some book openings and launches at maybe some local bookstores. I've got work to do on that. The fact that we are now wrapping up, about ready to retire, makes things a little bit different. And just for the future, I am hoping that I'm going to have some opportunities for sharing through presentations, other things, but also Ismael and I both will be part of ministry, and our ministry will focus first to the LGBT community, but that's not exclusive. We've had a lot of opportunities to share with numerous people, to pray for people, to encourage people, to see people change their hearts and minds about God. We're not discriminating in that sense, but we will be doing a lot of work around that, and working with the church in Puerto Rico that is Ismael's home church. And I've come to know the pastor and her wife, and she's a prophet. We've gotten really close, and we expect to be working well together with them. There's a lot of need. There's a great deal of need, period. So that's going to be one of our biggest focuses. We also plan to do some of our own work just as a voluntary way of earning some money, so that maybe we can assist other organizations, because a lot of organizations that are doing outreach, they don't have the financial, they don't have much in terms of fiscal support. So maybe we'll be able to share in some way and provide support for them as well. In support those agencies, organizations, especially that are nonprofit, that are trying so hard to reach out into the community and do good for the people, to help them in every way, physically, emotionally, spiritually, always.
Always. And before I send it over back to Ismael, I just want to say what an honor and what a privilege to have met you. And then you two combined, I mean, wow, what a dream team and power couple you will be as a retirees, of course, with all the great, call to action and projects that you just share with us. I really feel inspired, by your words. And thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We're just getting close to the end of this section. I would like to say that people who want to get the book, the webpage is thematthewgeneration.com. You need to put HTTPS www because otherwise you won't find it. And that's where they got the different ways to acquire the book. We have to say that the publishing company, which we encourage the military spouses, and we have other military spouses before that they wrote. This publishing company, they put the book in Europe, Canada, Australia, and that's the way they are the marketing, because the intent is, like he said, is not to make money, it's just to send a message. And I would like to say now I'm honored to be your husband. I'm so grateful to have you in my life, and every service member should honor the military spouse, because we can serve because we have a person who is holding everything together. I used to be single and travel by myself and do everything, but now, like just an example, I'm going to TDY. He packed my luggage because I'm a mess and everything is dress. I can be nice in the military, but in some areas I'm not. And this is a blessing. So thank you very much.
Yes, it's a blessing. It's certainly a blessing to be to have a great partner and advocate, but also a great soulmate and someone in your life. So thank you so much, both of you.
I'm muted, but you can just tell everybody thank you.
Hey, I love this guy. I love being married to him. If I had time, I would even talk to other spouses about ways that they can even provide better support, because the whole family benefits from that mutual respect and love. But that's maybe for another day, another time. But thank you very much. God bless you guys.
Thank you for being with us. We at the end, we're going to have all together to say goodbye. Now, we're going to have our new COO of Parade Deck. She's fun to talk. I mean, I just met her today. Well, I knew about her, and we just been talking and just having so much fun. So it's truly fantastic to see on organization like us dedicating their efforts to bring joy and cheer to our military spouse entrepreneur. Tiffany, how you doing?
There's the energy, Tiffany.
Okay,
there's the energy.
Y'all know, you guys know it's always interesting when I show up, because but anyway, yay, Tiffany's here, and your husband is the sweetest thing. Sorry, hey, go.
No, isn't he? That's just a remarkable just example of what a great relationship, communication, and supportive just environment that is, right, Ms. Tiff?
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a quick question that my colleague here always asks, and I always tend to jump and skip it all the time. But tell us a funny story that you have experienced as a military spouse.
Can we do when I served? Because it kind of like goes off of like Chris.
Anything?
Will I get in trouble? No.
We want to laugh.
Okay.
Tell us something
so,
funny.
All right. So I was stationed at Travis Air Force Base, and me and my girlfriends were like, let's go to Mexico. Right. And like none of us had leave because we were junior enlisted. So we're like, screw it. Oh, sorry. We're like, screw it. I already said it. Sorry. I said, let's go. So my girlfriend Rose grew up in Cali, NorCal. So we're like, let's rock. We made it from Travis Air Force Base to the border in 8 hours. Get down there. Never took leave. Okay. This is like 2001 or 2. 1. And like, we were just gone. Right. We get down there and it was like Friday. Rosarito, Mexico. Hoo-wee. It was different then. Anyway, we ate cat, but not on purpose. It was on accident. So we ate cat because you thought Chris ate a dog, but we ate cat.
How it tastes?
I don't remember. We were
with salsa. Everything tastes yummy.
Let me get some pico de gallo.
The pico de gallo and cilantro. It's so yummy.
Oh,
yes, let's go. So good. So yeah, there's my funny, gross story. No one's perfect, so that's okay.
But you got an adventure. When I was in Korea, I went out into the bill and I asked for chicken, but it didn't taste chicken. So maybe I ate dog because.
Tell me you ate it though, right? You finished it?
Yes, I finished it.
Yeah, see?
Because it was so good.
See?
It was so good.
It was so good. I didn't even know it was cat until we accidentally went around the back of the lean-to that we ate out of, and that's fine. It was cat. So
that's why you need to stick to quesadillas. That's it.
Yes.
All fat cheese, and then it's cheese.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Now, let me ask you another question here before my colleague here jumps in. But you are a third generation military, second generation Air Force veteran as well. So you have some really cool trajectory here as a military spouse, right? Tell us about your service. What is your experience like? What has all of that has felt for you?
All right. So yeah, third generation military, grandfather, uncles, and brother Army. My mom and I are Air Force. 2-time military spouse on husband number 2. First one was dope, just wasn't for me, right? And actually, my husband now is Air Force Reserve in tech school at Fort Leonard Wood, hating life because he's not on an Air Force installation. So he is just not happy with the accommodations. And I said, sir, the fact that you use the word accommodations in military training, adorable. You're so Air Force and you just got here. So and then I have 2 boys that are, one just turned 20 on the 24th. And he's trying to figure out what's next for him, right? He's kind of just figuring it all out. He's young. Now's the time to explore and just be you, baby. But he is giving me a heart attack saying Army and Navy. So that's fine. Yeah. But then there's my other child who's going to be 19 and he's in college at Clarkson in upstate New York. And ROTC, he wants to fly. He wants to be an Air Force pilot. And then I have the feral queen who's 7. Okay, I just need a moment of silence. But anyway, so yeah, serving's kind of in my DNA. And my service, it was interesting. I joined 1 August 2001. And oddly enough, my husband joined. Well, we left, and he left 1 August 2023. So the way the universe works, right? But my service to my country was interesting. I met some amazing people that I'm still connected with, but things, it was tough a little bit. It was tough. And then, we did the military thing. You get married young, you have babies young, back to back, 13 months apart, and you were on that struggle bus, and it's tough. I'm very thankful that I'm able to look back. Right. But it was tough. It was tough during our service. And I always say this because I think it's important. I was that airman in the commissary with my big old WIC checks before they turned into whatever they are now. Right. And I was, feeling shame because I had to get the peanut butter that wasn't branded. Back then, it was like for real government items, right? Government cheese, government peanut butter. We didn't have this beautiful freedom's choice that it's like, it almost looks like Jif. Like, no. Right. So you knew that you were getting, whatever. And then, feeling shame because if my friends came over, they saw I had the cheap stuff and not the Jif. Meanwhile, they got the same stuff I do, but you know how that works. So it was just really interesting. It was tough. And then when I got out, y'all, we got out, me and my ex-husband, who's still serving, by the way. He's a command post at a Stratton Air National Guard in upstate New York. We couldn't afford a pot to piss in upstate or Northern California in 2004 or 2005. We couldn't, right? So my mother-in-law at the time, she flew to Cali, took our boys, and me and my ex-husband drove our Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with an 80% interest rate, right? We drove that bad boy across country because that's what they used to do. No one cared about predatory lending back then. We didn't know any better. We're like, we can have it right now. Where do I sign? And they're like, you're military? Yes, you can. It was like the Wild Wild West compared to it now. So, when we got out, he was still in, we struggled. I struggled. I grew up in Napa Valley, California. And when my mom got out, we lived on actually the Veterans Home grounds in Yountville, California. For those of you who know, if you know, you know, whatever. But because when they say that, every time I have to say, I F you. Like I have to sit there and
spell it out.
Literally, just say it. Stop it. Say it. They'll fix it if you whatever. But so anyway, when we moved to upstate New York, it was a struggle. Napoleon Hill, I read a lot. I don't watch TV, books for days, like all kinds. But Napoleon Hill calls it hypnotically drifting. And that's what I did. I struggle with some of the monsters that I brought with me from my service to my country, and I never dealt with that. I tried going back to college. Didn't work. I was poor. I lived in subsidized housing for a little bit, was on food stamps for a little bit, but thankfully I was able to use it as a stepping stone. I've had over 12 jobs from 2005 to 2018. I just couldn't, it was hard. When you get out of the military back then, it wasn't like it is now. There was no skill bridge. There was no anything. One military, one source. What? No. My TAP was 2 days, and one of them was optional. And because I was pregnant, because I got out because I was pregnant, they said, "Hey, you got a cavity, but you're pregnant. You want to go to dental?" 20-year-old Tiffany, hell no, I got this. Now I'm looking at my dentist bills like, we can wait. I'll just keep brushing and I'll only smile on this side. You know what I mean? But, it was really crazy. The support was not there. And unfortunately now in the transition sector, it's like drinking from a fire hose. So the end result is still the same for most of us transitioning out. It's like, whoa, I got this. I'm good. We're not good. But anyway, yeah, it's been interesting. And I didn't find my why until 2018. I bartended and served. That was my baseline because no matter what, even if I screwed up your drink, forgot to bring in your order, I would get 20, 30% tip from you. Easy. But that's tiring when you have two boys, right? That's late nights, UFC fights. You're not getting home till 2, 3, So yeah.
I have to say something. I admire you.
Yes.
Because
why?
Well,
thank you.
Being you just say being a 20 years mom, being in the military, being in the Air Force, taking care of your family, you never give up, you never stop, you just keep going, and that's how the fighters are made of, from the fire, from going in, going out, going in, going out, and be molded. I have to say also to the audience that sometimes are my military army guys. We talk about the Air Force and we complain why they are in better accommodations that we.
Accommodations, okay, that's the key word right there. Accommodations.
For the day, accommodations.
Accommodations. So the reason is the Air Force mission 1, they don't go forward. They just go do the mission and come back. Second, when you have a service member handling an equipment that costs millions of dollars, you want to make sure that they have the best perks around. There's two reasons for that. One, because they need to be rested, they need to be taken care so they can do the mission and nothing happen with equipment. Second, the marketing, the job market for the people who are getting out, like you said, but now from the Air Force is high. So I can be a pilot, do my 6 years, and then go to a private, organization and finish. So that's the reason why. And that was explained when I was in the ILE, the intermediate level education, by my class leader. She was instructor. She was Air Force, and she was able to explain us everything. And from that moment, I understood, and I tip my hat to the Air Force.
Well, it's funny. You covered so many different things that I was like, yes, but listen, not to respond. I'm working on that. That's something I'm working on because I get so excited. I'm like, but I think. But no, you covered so many things. So I want to touch on something that is really interesting that I'm seeing here in the Florida Panhandle with some of these military spouses. It's okay to be in survival mode. It's okay. Like, can we just, because, with the boys, that's what we were. For the first half of their life, if not a little bit more, we were in survival mode, right? We were on the struggle bus. But now, especially with my daughter, Max, thankfully we're not. But, I was talking to a parent at one of my daughter's jujitsu. She does jujitsu because, yeah, why not, right? I wish I had that training. But I was talking to her and she was very, out here. So just so you're tracking, out here we got Eglin Air Force Base, Hurlburt Special Operator Air Force Base. We have Duke Field, which is the Guard and Reserve unit, the unit my husband is attached to. We have 7th Group, Army, and we have 6 RTB, the Ranger Training Battalion. It's the last phase of Ranger School here, and it's so awesome. It's like swamp school. They got snakes. It's the DoD's only reptile facility. So I get in my Wrangler and I ride out there. Yes, what? That's wrong.
I will not be visiting you there. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, girl, we're going on field trip. But yeah, so it's just, there's a lot of movement. And then up the road you got Nas P, right? Our Blue Angel. So, we have to recognize that so many of us are on the struggle bus. And I'm not saying it's okay to be like, yeah, live off the system. I'm saying it's okay to give yourself peace, and to give yourself just a moment to be in it. I don't know. I just, listen, the reason why I got out of the Air Force is because back then you got 6 weeks. You got 6 weeks to have a baby, then you're back. And back then they called them buckets. The Air Force deployed in 3-month buckets. And if I would have had Donovan and stayed in within 2 weeks of me coming off maternity leave, I would have been gone. No way.
Okay.
So
yes, I understand the word buckets. That means it's the groups, they're the assembly, they go together. Now you are in your position about the COO, Chief Operation Officer. I learned that from Suits. You seen the
Craig used to watch that. I think so. The fancy show. They all look great. Yeah.
So tell me, in your role, what will be your role now, and how this multiple experience, because you have a rainbow of experience in life experience and professional experience, how that will get together?
Well, parade deck was, what people don't realize is it's a startup. The people it's a beautiful, and I'm so honored. So, all right, here we go. Parade deck. What is it? Amplifying the military voices. Most of your viewers already know, but when it was brought to me, that resonated with me so much because I wish someone listened to me when I was on the struggle bus. I wish there was a platform in which I could voice and just articulate like, this is why I'm angry, right? Because in reality, it's so important to be able to have that outlet without just having it all ball up. But Chief Operating Officer, I don't know, man, operating stuff. No, like I said, it is a startup. So I am so grateful for the opportunity to help build this out and really strategize as to how to best serve our change makers, right? Our men and women who have served, who are still serving in the military spouses, so that they feel comfortable and create an ecosystem of love to where they're just going to talk about it, because we need that. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like that out there where we can come together and be like, hold on, you know what? He just got, yes, Air Force, sorry. He just got no contact orders. I don't know what that is. What is a no contact order? I want people to be able to say, yeah, what is a no contact orders, right? Because this wave of military, they don't know what that was like for us, right? So I want them to go to Parade Deck and look into that and see podcasts and different people, some that look like them, some that don't, and find those answers. Also, anyone that wants, to find anything military, you need a military speaker, hit up the Parade Deck. You're a recruiter, because we all know recruiting is on the struggle bus, except for Marines, which
they make it.
Service? No, but they do. They make it. But maybe this isn't in my other job when I'm running this beautiful nonprofit, Forever Warriors. A lot of the feedback is, well, the military doesn't take care of their soldiers, sailors, airmen, guardians. They don't. What? No, that's not true. So having a platform like the Parade Deck is so much more important, right? Recruitment, retention, resiliency, and the opportunity to be heard, to be seen, and to feel a part of something so much bigger, as us vets did when we once served. But, creating a tribe of support, like, we forget that sometimes. But what I do know is these silos aren't working, not for my brothers and sisters that raise their right hand, and not for my mil spouses that are out here just on turn and burns, right, with their spouses. Right. So Parade Deck is an evolution of everything.
It's certainly a great community for all of us to unite and find that great, as you said, that great bridge of communications to channel all of our desires, our projects, but also our stories, our storyteller, platform that we can all share those and normalize it. Yes, you struggle, I struggle. We all have had to go through those dysfunctional challenges, but that's life. And now, Ms. Tiffany, I want to go back to a little bit of your transition, your process. You shared, when you got out, there was absolutely nothing, or you had only a limited time to exposure to maybe a TAPS class, all these things. But nowadays, there seems to be a lot more abundance of resources and things to really project better career traction for transitioning for military spouses, as well as, the service members, as well as their spouses. But in your opinion, currently, what are some of those biggest challenges that veterans and military spouses still continue to face when they're trying to transition into a new life, especially since you are in the middle of, like you said, the largest military connection community?
So I think it's expectations. Managing the expectations of the transitioning military member. So the nonprofit, again, that I help with, we support, first of all, let me be clear, collaboration over competition all day, every day. There is no other way to be great. Yes. Right? PSA. Say it louder for the people in the back. We have got to, again, let the egos go. And it's hard. I work on that every single day. But we've got to come together. And when you have... It's hard. I'm trying to be respectful. And I'm not, what I'm saying is this. We're accustomed to living a certain way in the military. You can drive right now down 98 and see the officer housing, enlisted housing. They're both amazing. When you get out, not everyone understands or cares about what you did when you served, the amount of money associated with the assets that you managed or handled. Like, the biggest misconnection I see, or one of them, is just educating us. But they're trying. See, that's the tough part. The military is trying so hard. And I work with senior leadership. They're really trying, but something's missing. And I'm hoping, again, Parade Deck can be that bridge. But expectation versus reality. For instance, I help transitioning service members in another thing that I do. And my guy is out of the country. He's an officer. And he's getting out, medically discharged, med boarded, right? Yeah. So he's like, hey, I want this, My wife's a stay-at-home mom. I got 4 kids. She's homeschooled, so I need this and this and this big house, this many car garage, and I want to be here in the Panhandle. What? And I'm like, all right, cool. And listen, they just sometimes don't understand. And I think that's the biggest struggle. Like, yes, we have amazing nonprofits like the Honor Foundation, like Special Operator Transition Foundation, like Skill Bridge, right? We have Okaloosa Career Source. Everyone's helping, but there's something missing because we're getting out and we're just kind of, again, Honor Foundation and Special Operator, just because I love those guys, but that's exclusive to the Special Operator. But like, what about the Mill Spouse? Like, where is and I know they're out there, but where are the classes that talk about health insurance if you're not service connected? Where are the classes that talk about taxes if you do buy a house, right? Like, I don't know, man. That's the struggle.
Yes, you know what? I'm in the process of transition. I'm in boarding too. So, and I can relate with that person that you mentioned because I have seen in my life soldiers getting out of the service and they don't know what they're expecting. Especially there's 40% of the soldiers, I can say 40% of the soldiers, so the majority of them, they are from 10 years or less of service. And they think when they go out, they will have the same life standard, and it is not. And that's the what I have versus my expectation to continue. And it is hard because sometimes the soldiers go to the TAP. It's not that TAP is not covering. They're trying to have a week, but sometimes the soldier is on a lot of stress because unit, if they're calling you, the unit here, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes the soldier is, I want to check the block because I got so much stuff to do, and they don't pay attention. And it is true, there's missing something in that process. They're missing, like, we didn't talk about taxes. So we don't know where. I'm asking, I know there is in the website, in Soldier for Life website, I can go to the taxes in Puerto Rico, but it's different. It's hard to understand how much it's going to be. And then because you need to have a budget to be able to decide yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the toughest thing though is like everything's out there, we're just not listening. For instance, and I love to like flex this fact because most people don't know. Did you guys know Hilton Honors, if you two were married, would give you 100,000 points and would give you 100,000 points to either PCS or ETS or get out. They would give you each, so total 200,000 points to spend so that you don't have to worry about paying for a hotel while you're trying to figure out if you're going to build, if you're going to buy, what apartment, Now here in a tourist area with Pensacola and Destin, 200,000 points, it's not going to get you far. But guess what? You know a Tiffany owner, and I know hotel owners. So we're going to get a week out of those, you know what I mean? But that gives you that small peace of mind. And then if you think about just the alleviation of that financial stress in that moment, but again, most people don't know it. So amplifying the military voice is what the plan is. We're going to do it with intention and integrity and love. You just got to give us a minute.
Yes,
absolutely. But, going back to what Chris also was sharing earlier today, in which we're going to bring him back in a little bit. But he was saying, it's all about also internally as a couple, as a family, having that strong communication and that bond. Even if having those hard communications, especially like hubby and I always fight about money. We don't agree on it. You spend it. Your account is, it's in the hole. He always tells me your account's in the hole if it goes below a certain amount. My account, excuse me, you also tap from it. What are you talking about? The money
right. Teamwork makes dream work.
This kid, but it's my fault. So anyway, but having those uncomfortable conversations sometimes as a family, it needs to be done, and we need to face it if we really want to move forward and have a good transition sometimes.
Yeah, there's something that the soldier doesn't know, and I agree with you, Tiffany, 100%. Soldiers don't know. I want to tell you what was the struggle when I was a Soldier for Life. I was the employment director. I was in charge to connect those organizations with the different recruiting facilities that they have, for facilities so they can employ veterans of
Yes.
soldiers, but the information that go to the soldiers, to the soldier level. I mean, to the lowest level. The military spouse, they don't go, the information, they don't go to the lowest level. And the Army, I do believe that the Army needs to do something better to communicate. I'm saying, and they need to be better on communicating, not because an email. Sometimes what happens is it comes an email of we need to do this, but it depends in organizations like Soldier for Life. We depend on the commands. That means I can put something in the S1 net, but depends on the commander if he give it up, if he decided he talk about or not. So there's no direct information to the soldiers, so the soldier doesn't have that ability. And Parade Deck is that platform that give the voice to the people that has been going through things just to do it. Just going in that direction. I know we're finishing.
This is like Parade Deck is that hit the button to distribute the content.
Yes. So let's invite Chris Ortiz here, because what I'm going to say is when we were in Washington in JBLM, I was IG, right? So I hear a lot of stories. So there was something that impacted me. It was the military spouses, they got together in like Facebook or something, and they start talking about the conditions of housing. And happened that Chris he knows that happened that the Army, the DOD, started doing an investigation, and they found a lot of deficiencies, and they ordered this company, and the Army put some money just to have the house in a good condition for the soldiers and the families. Soldiers were living in houses with black mold because they were they were old, that kind of stuff. But it was because the military spouses decided to networking and talk. There is power. There is power in the collaboration. You said it, Tiffany. There is power in the collaboration. There is power in the networking. And I'm leaving, I'm getting out of the military. The military is a good organization, regardless the branch. It's a good organization. But at the same time, we need to encourage the military spouse to know what are the rights. You mentioned about the order, this. Sometimes the military spouse doesn't have anything, or the commanders don't inform the military spouse. And if you are in remote areas like in Louisiana, for Polk, thank you. Is in Fort Polk, they're isolated. If you don't know people, you're in a new military spouse, 17 years old, 20, 21, and then you go there, you don't know people, it's going to be hard for you. And the Army needs to do better in taking care of the military spouse. It needed to be said, and I
agree. Well, you did. Well, you know what? They all do, right? Because like you said, if communication isn't a thing and you're young and you've never had anything Air Force you've never been a part of the military, you're in your own silo. You don't know what you don't know. And then your spouse who's also 19, 20 is going to come home and be like, hey, just so you know, there's the mobile food truck, this, whatever. Like that can, or there's just not enough communication. But you're right. These Facebook groups are real. In one of my past lives, that's how I got engagement in these military communities, these pockets so quick, because 6 weeks before I got there, I would lie. Are you new moms at Lackland Air Force Base? Yeah, sure. Moving to Randolph Air Force Base. Yup. Stationed at, but that's where you get to see some of the issues and pain points of our military spouses. And we got to get them on Parade Deck so we can literally, it needs to be a movement. They got to get, because some of them are so young and some of them are isolated because they are in Japan, they are in Germany, and they're miserable. But what are they going to do? They've never had a job. They're going to what? Use the joint bank account, buy a plane ticket, So we got to create that platform.
It is more than it was seen in the surface. But it still needs the Army, the military force, they need to recognize that you are not recruiting. Listen to me. I work in recruiting. I know what I'm talking. You are not recruiting soldiers. You are recruiting families. And there's a higher percentage of the family where the military spouse is professional And sometimes there's a lot of gaps in the resume because she doesn't know. I'm gonna be honest. My husband trying to find. Do you know that my husband didn't know that recruit military exists? That is within the army. That the MSEP existed. That he looked for help, but he was every time that we PCS, it was 1 year before he can find a job. And there's one job, and he worked in anything. Like he was doing Uber Eats because he liked to work. But there was one job that he was officinist, a person with a lot of capabilities and doing officinist because the spouses are under, what is the word, Laura?
They're underemployed. They're either unemployed or they're underemployed. Yeah. So, yep. And that's the biggest. Yes. That's the
biggest challenge. But we can talk about unemployment, underemployment for another whole hour. But we do want to focus though on entrepreneurship and thank all of our entrepreneurs out there in Parade Deck and throughout the military spouse community world, all the as families, veterans. And so, but before we go, of course, because we're getting closer to wrap up our segment here, we'd like to share, first of all, thank you, Tiffany and Chris, for sharing words of wisdom and of course, inspiration of your personal journeys. But would you like to share anything with our other military spouses that are currently listening and will also listen to this afterwards? Any words of wisdom?
Yeah. Don't stop. Don't give up. Don't. I know it sucks. I do, but just don't stop.
Yeah, I ditto that. And it's there are resources. You got to listen to each other talk, for goodness sakes, help and support one another, and try to, I'm being honest, get away from the nitpicky gossip to talk to people that are moving up and forward and can guide you and help you to get where you should be. That's what I say. If I had it all to do it again, I would do it differently. That's for sure. But I also want to say, Tiffany, it's been an honor to be on with you because you're a beautiful person, not just physically, but just beautiful all around. And what fun. And you bring a really nice counterbalance to me because I'm not like, sunshine and roses.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we're getting close. Thank you very much, Tiffany. Thank you, Chris, for being with us. It's been inspiring. It's been joyful. And this is what is Bad-Azz Military Spouse Connection, to be joyful, to be a space for the military spouse, talk about what they're going through and everything. And we need to spread the word about the program. So the more people can listen, maybe we can go twice a month. But for now, we're just the third Thursday of the month. What happened is we have some conflict last week. We're supposed to be last week, but we solved it and we decided to just move it 1 week ahead. So it's wonderful. Thank you, Laura.
Yes, absolutely. And for, of course, join us next month. We have a very special show for you. And of course, Mr. Ismael and Mr. Chris will be on vacation. But we have a very special co-host guest, the original Bad-Azz Military Spouse Connector will be here co-hosting with me, Franchetta. So she has already agreed and secured her attendance. So we'll have a really great show for you and more military spouses who will be sharing their journey with you as well, inspiring their stories. So thank you so much for supporting this and for all of the great connections that we are making forward. Thank you. Thank you, Tiffany.
Yeah,
Chris.
Tiffany, thank you for being part of the family of Parade Deck, and welcome.
Yes.
What an amazing, what an amazing personality and a good match for you to be in there.
Yeah. So to all our audience, like Laura said, we see you the next month I'm gonna be in the beach in Puerto Rico. At least we're gonna try, because the last time we went to Puerto Rico, we took 10 days. You know what happened? We got COVID.
Oh no!
So we have to lock down ourselves, and we couldn't do anything that we planned. But this time we're expecting to do more. So to our audience, thank you very much for listening. We'll see you in the next time. Bye.
For more amazing military podcasts and content, follow us at paradedeck.com, the #1 place to meet changemakers. See you next time on Bad-Azz Military Spouse Connection, a Parade Deck original.